may not be suitable for all audiences.
Camera ready, take one, and action!
Art 101 with Mr. Burgher.
Scholars, welcome back to another episode of Art 101 with me, Mr. Burgher. I'm a professional artist and a master educator, and I attempt to provide you with the best in art historical content. If you like the content, make sure you follow, do all the things, subscribe. You know the drill.
You got mud in your ears or what?
So today, as you know, because you clicked on the video, I want to talk a little bit about an artist, Gian Lorenzo Bernini, one of the great sculptors of the Baroque time period, and let's quit chit-chatting and get right down to it.
Art was a family business for Gian Lorenzo Bernini. His father, Pietro, was a successful Florentine sculptor, and so his early training took place in his father's workshop. The 8-year-old prodigy was brought before Pope Paul V, and he did a drawing so great, the Pope knew that he would be the next Michelangelo Buonarroti. Cardinal Maffeo Barberini was appointed to watch over the boy and shape his education. The push was made for Bernini to gain a stronger aptitude in sculpture, painting, and architecture. The young artist was also known to have designed stage sets, worked as a playwright, and even composed his own music. When Barberini was elected Pope Urban VIII on August the 6th, 1623, he looked to the handsome, witty, and gifted Bernini to become his artist and architect at St. Peter's. He would create tombs, he would create statues, and the huge baldacchino over St. Peter's tomb. There were times that he took advantage of his workers. He exploited their experiences, specializations, their labor, and once even had an affair with one of the workers' wives.
Wendy, I'm home.
Gian Lorenzo Bernini was infatuated with Matteo Buonarrotti's wife Costanza. He even created a marble bust of her, Costanza Buonarroti. Now, he and Costanza were getting pretty hot and heavy. They were kind of mixing it up on the side. And one night, Gian Lorenzo comes home and he finds his brother Luigi mixing it up with a lady friend, if you know what I mean. Turns out that lady friend was Costanza. Yeah, that's right. He finds his brother half naked with Costanza, and so he grabs an iron poker from the fireplace and tries to kill him with it. Now his brother gets away, but then he confronts his brother once again with a sword, and fortunately for old Luigi, he gets away again. But it wasn't enough just to go after his brother. He wanted to get back at Costanza as well for what she had done to him. Because, she's cheating on her husband with him. His expectation is she's going to be faithful. But, sometimes, as they say, a zebra does not change their stripes. But a psychopath does not stop being a psychopath. And Gian Lorenzo Bernini could be a little bit of a psychopath. He had a servant break into her house and slash her face up with a razor. This assistant was sent to prison for assault, and Costanza was sent to prison for adultery. Luigi was exiled from Rome for his participation in this whole mess, and Bernini was forced to get married to Caterina Tezio by the Pope. Now, the logic behind this arranged marriage was that the Pope needed Bernini to stay out of trouble and get away from this whole situation, and so he arranged for him to get married. He set out a group of cardinals with the mission of finding the most beautiful, eligible woman in Rome, kind of like a weird matchmaker situation, but anyway, they apparently find the most beautiful, eligible woman in Rome and set them up. They were married when he was 41 years old, she was about 20, and in a weird sort of twist of the whole thing, they were very faithful to each other, ended up having 11 children together, and it all kind of turned out for the best in terms of the relationship side.
I love that you did that.
I didn't.
I do. I love that he put every bit he had into it.
As an architect, Gian Lorenzo Bernini did many projects. He created many architectural works, including the facade design for the Church of St. Bibina, Shaiji Palace, and many other works. He also enjoyed working with theatrical designs. He was allowed to experiment with a lot of different architectural elements and their interactions with people in this sort of way. But in terms of his actual sculptural works, Bernini was most known for his work in white marble, the great sculpture, The Ecstasy of Saint Teresa. This sculpture is based on the real-life account of Saint Teresa of Avila in Spain, who died in 1583. Her wealthy father made her choose marriage or go into the convent and become a nun. She chose the convent. She really did not enjoy it much at all and became a bulimic. But in overcoming this disease, there was this party, a celebration of her new health and her new life, and she met this man that she could not get off of her mind. She prayed about this and thought, what should I do? And she says, I heard these words. Now I want you to speak not with men, but with the angels. And an angel appeared in human form. He left me totally inflamed by the great love of God. The pleasure and the pain are wrapped into one in this particular work. It is in the Canoro Chapel at Santa Maria della Vittoria in Rome. It was created under the commission of Cardinal Federico Canaro. Light is the most important thing to this particular sculpture, as it is in most of his sculptures. The natural light is allowed to pour down into the sculpture through architectural elements and stained glass windows behind the work and above the work and all those sorts of things. And not only is this particular work so amazing, but the decorations throughout the entire church are really amazing. They're primarily done by Bernini. I had the opportunity to visit this church several years ago, and boy, seeing these things firsthand really can't be beat.
I found the address in your coat. Here.
In his youth, Gian Lorenzo Bernini studied many artworks by the great Renaissance artist Michelangelo Buonarroti. He would say, when I was young, Annabelle Carricci advised me to make sketches of Michelangelo's Last Judgment for at least 2 years in order to understand how the muscles were coordinated. He specifically uses those studies of Michelangelo to create one of his great works of sculptural genius, the Fountain of the Four Rivers, that he was commissioned to create at the Piazza Navona in Rome. Now, it is true that he would create many of the fountains in Rome, and there is no town that is more known for its fountains than Rome, but in this particular work, water is very symbolic as a gesture that Bernini and others used to describe the Baroque time period. It is a time of fluidity. It is a consciousness of nature, and all of those things are very evident in this particular work, where each side represents one of the four great rivers of the world. Those being represented were the Nile, the Ganges, the Danube, and the Rio del Plata. After the Fountain of the Four Rivers was unveiled, Bernini himself was considered to be the greatest sculptor since Michelangelo Buonarroti himself. Side note, Bernini's Fountain of the Four Rivers did shake the world as a great Baroque sculpture, adding to Rome's distinction as the city with the most fountains. However, the city with the second most fountains in the world is Kansas City, Missouri.
Scrub, scrub.
Gian Lorenzo Bernini would need some help with his painting. He was adequate, but not really an exceptional painter. He took some lessons from others, including Andrea Sacchi as well as Guercino Barberini. Later, he would seek advice from the great Peter Paul Rubens as well as Diego Velázquez. Over the course of many decades, under the umbrella of 8 successive popes as well as Louis XIV, Gian Lorenzo Bernini worked to beautify Rome and decorate the Vatican with his artworks. Some of those artworks were created to, in a very real sense, save his family's name. As I mentioned before, his brother Luigi was expelled from the city of Rome, but in the late 1670s, his brother was allowed to come back. He had gone to the Pope and asked for permission and all these sorts of things to allow his brother to come back into Rome, and that was allowed. In 1672, his brother Luigi was arrested for inappropriate acts with a young boy at St. Peter's. In order to make up for these unmentionable acts, to try to pay restitution for his brother's inappropriateness, Gian Lorenzo would create the casket for a beloved individual and creating the Blessed Ludovica Albertoni. And from that point forward, his brother was out of Rome and out of his life.
Don't make me have to separate you two again, damn it!
Bernini was a great artist, he was a great sculptor, and there was a little bit of him being allowed to get away with things or do things that others, quite frankly, didn't have the ability to do or get away with. And sometimes we can see that as unfair, but there's no rule that says life has to be fair, and unfortunately that's just the way life goes sometimes. A great artist, but a very conflicted person, a very passionate person, but certainly not a perfect person. Over the course of his lifetime, Bernini would create over 200 works of art that are still looked at and appreciated to this day. He never really lived up to being the next Michelangelo Buonarroti, but boy, do we hear that a lot. This is going to be the next great person, whether we're talking about the next great basketball player, the next great football player, the next great artist, or the next great musician, and they never really live up to the hype of the original. But it's also probably a really difficult thing to live up to those sorts of expectations. So hopefully we can learn from that as we move forward and think about the artists that are up and coming to this day, and maybe allow them just to be the artist of their own as opposed to a compare and contrast with others.
Friends, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I love being able to bring it to you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
I find music a useful distraction.